Howdy-ho, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to this week's episode of Let's Talk. The biggest topic is the budget. Week after week after week, there's a lot of drama revolving around this horrible budget. The Liberals like to toss out words like austerity, progressive. Well, there's only one word that really describes this budget, and here it is. And that's God honest truth. They can use as much word salad as they want. That is what this budget offers, is deficit. And as we know, deficits mean higher inflation. Higher inflation means higher costs. So we already have the CBC, who is just a state propaganda outlet. It's no longer a media outlet. And we have them telling us that we need to eat expired food now to save money. We are sending billions overseas, but we in Canada, according to the Liberals, have to eat expired food. Let that thing sink in. For all of you Liberal lovers out there that refuse to get informed on anything, let that sink in. I hope you enjoy your moldy Brussels sprouts, because this is what you voted for. But that's actually not what this video is about. This video is going to be about the budget and defense spending, because it came out recently that in the budget, snuck away inside the budget, is Carney's plan for defense spending. Now, David at Moose and Loose has already exposed, better than I could ever do, how every defense expenditure is tied to Brookfield, or a Brookfield affiliate, which Carney is invested in. So this isn't about increasing defense spending. This is about increasing Carney's wealth and increasing the wealth of Carney's buddies. Make no mistake about it. That's what this is about. It's not about defense spending. So that's the first thing you gotta put aside, is don't think this is intended to help Canada. This isn't. This is intended to make Mark Carney rich or richer. But even the plan is ludicrous. So we have 300,000 civil service workers who don't want to show up for work. They want to work from home. They don't even want to go into the office. And according to Mark Carney, he's going to train them for 1 week on firearm training. Yeah, that's a great course. Even in Scouts, I took more than a week to learn about firearms. But he's going to train them for 1 week. And that's going to be our reserve. Yeah, what could go wrong with that? Really. But why don't we buy some nukes and give them the nuclear codes? The same difference. It's absolutely asinine, but kind of what I expect from the Mark Carney Liberals nowadays. So I got a couple clips for you for this video. First off, we're going to do the big one of the defense minister trying to sell his party's defense spending. And I'll jump in when he lies, which means I'll be jumping in a lot. But anyway.
Now, national defense is a big part of this budget. There's a promise to rebuild, to rearm, and to reinvest. And with that pledge comes more money, more than $70 billion over 5 years. That's in addition to $9 billion announced earlier this year. Let's talk about all these numbers with Canada's Minister of National Defense. That is David McGuinty. Minister, good to see you.
Okay, first off, I want to be very transparent here. I full-heartedly agree with increasing the defense spending in Canada for our military. Our military men and women are woefully underpaid for the services they provide. They are under-equipped, and they've been under-equipped since Pierre Elliott Trudeau. There has been stories out there constantly, and it's always the Liberal. The Liberals always cut defense spending. So it's so ironic. What a great look that is from McGuinty. But it's so ironic that it's the Liberals that are saying, oh, well, we got to rebuild them after Liberal after Liberal after Liberal cut defense spending. There are stories out there over the years where our troops had to beg for sleeping blankets from the Americans, shoes from the Americans, footwear, just basic footwear. We went to a desert environment and our guys did not have the clothing for it. This is what the Liberals have done, and now they're going to be the saviors? I find the hypocrisy stunning, absolutely stunning. But again, I have been saying for decades that we need to spend more on military. And it's been the Liberals, the NDP, that have been saying, no, we don't. Quit being a warmonger. We don't need to spend more on military. So they're hypocrites. It's why one of the reasons why I detest the modern day left wing. They're hypocrites. All of them, whether they're in the Liberal Party or whether they're just supporters of the Liberal Party. They're all freaking hypocrites.
Good evening, Andrew.
Oh, and I got to also say that this guy is one of the most corrupt people in Ottawa today. David McGuinty. He's absolutely terrible.
Had heard $62.7 billion as the defense budget for this fiscal year going into this budget. How do the numbers in this budget change that number for this year and the spending number for your department for the new fiscal year that's going to be starting next spring?
Well, the first thing for viewers to remember is that we made the important decision some months ago to meet the 2% GDP target for NATO a full 5 years ahead of schedule. We're doing this by March 30th.
See, he's already lying. It's not 5 years ahead of schedule. It's 20 years behind schedule. NATO has been threatening to kick us out of NATO for not meeting the 2%. Now, that's not only on the Liberals. PM Harper also did not raise our spending, so he has to carry some of that, as does Mulrooney. But the big cuts came from the Liberals. Harper and Mulrooney, they maintain status quo, and I disagree with both of them on that, but they maintain status quo at the time. The cuts came from the Liberals, and NATO has been threatening to kick us out of NATO for not meeting the 2%. So it's not 5 years ahead of schedule because nobody, absolutely nobody, agreed with the Liberal time frame of 5 years. Everybody across the board, across the world has been saying, you're 20 years too late. So this imaginary 5 years, that's just him lying again. And this is what he does. He lies.
First, that's why the Prime Minister announced an extra $9.3 billion of funding to do precisely as you indicated, to rearm and to, frankly, reinvigorate all of our Canadian Armed Forces, recruiting and retaining, etc. So we're making those investments as we go forward, and the women and the men of the Canadian Armed Forces deserve it.
Now, among this money, there is $18 billion over 5 years for equipment. The budget talks about additional logistics utility, light utility, armored vehicles, counter drone capabilities. Can you be a bit more specific about what you're looking for in this category? What type of weaponry are we talking for Canadian Forces personnel?
Okay, I can be more specific. Every single thing that he just named that the Liberals want to buy comes from Brookfield or a Brookfield affiliate that Mark Carney is invested in. This is exactly why you're not supposed to have stocks outside of Canada when you go into Parliament. But Mark Carney ignored those rules. All of this spending, it enriches Mark Carney and it enriches Mark Carney's friends. That's what it's about. It's not really about helping Canada. And it never has been.
Well, listen, we're looking at the full gamut of tools and equipment that are required. It's been a long time since we've actually taken a long, hard look at the stock and the inventory that we have. Again,
another lie. We have been looking at the stock and the inventory ever since Pierre Elliott Trudeau was in office. And we have been saying we need more. And this idiot, this is how much of a hypocrite it is. Under Justin Trudeau, he voted against increasing military spending, but now he's in favor of it? What does this idiot stand for other than corruption? Seriously.
Much machinery, both here and abroad in Latvia. We're looking to improve, to retrofit, to replace loves, different kinds of...
He can't even say the word. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Armored vehicles, ambulance-type structures and ambulance-type vehicles, kit, weapons, rifles, ammunition. All of this is being reevaluated, David. Forgive me, Andrew, as well as everything that's going on our bases. We have 33 bases in this country. We have to retrofit their housing, water, wastewater, electric systems. We've let this fall a considerable distance.
Yes, you have let this fall. You specifically, and you're a party. So quit trying to play the heroes. You created this disaster.
This is a very important investment in our economy at the same time, because not only we are investing in our women and men of the forces, we're investing in all of the procurement that'll go alongside it to repair, retrofit, and rebuild.
Which will make Mark Carney even more rich. Like, I'm not making stuff up here. I will link to David from Musa and Luce's chart. You can look at Mark Carney's investments. Everything he is investing in, including these mystical, high priority national projects, they all make him richer. That is the criteria he looks at. He doesn't look at, does it help Canada? Does it help Canadians? He looks at it, does it make him richer?
Okay, now the budget does talk a lot about spending, but the budget also talks a lot about savings, as you know, right across the federal government. Now, national defense does not face as high a requirement to find savings as most other departments. You do need to find a 2% reduction. So where exactly are those savings going to come from?
Well, the savings involve efficiencies that we've explained in the budget. We're talking about making some transfers. Look, the basic premise here is we want to move some operational money into our investment bucket.
They're fudging the books. Moving dollars on paper does not save any dollars, contrary to what he says. And taking something out of an expense and calling it an investment does not make it an investment. These guys lie constantly. I'm showing you a news article right now where they're calling them out on it.
We believe in investing, and as the Prime Minister's indicated, about $1 trillion in our economy going forward. We want to hyper-stimulate a couple of core sectors, and one of which is defense. We're going to create a lot of jobs. We've already got 600 companies in this country in this industry sector. Now we're launching a new defense industrial sector for the future. It's comprehensive. It's the first of its kind in Canadian history. We've talked to over 1,000 companies,
that are all aligned to Brookfield.
17 other countries to find out how did they do it, how are they doing it, what worked, what didn't work. And we'll have more to say about this when we announce the Defense Industrial Strategy. We've also taken another big step here, Andrew, and we've created a new procurement agency.
Yeah, because that's a big saving. More consultants, more bureaucracy, more talk. When do these people stop talking and using word salad and actually start doing?
Procurement agency is going to specialize in buying anything over $100 million. This will really bring together the kinds of professionals that we need to make these important procurements for our system and the equipment we need.
All right, I do want to go back to NATO. You talked about that 2% target in your first answer. This budget says there is a path to Canada meeting NATO's expanded spending target. This is the 5% of GDP by the year 2035. Now, this budget lays out spending through 2030. That $82 billion odd dollars is just over the next 5 years. So by the time we get to 2030, where will we be by that point in terms of meeting that NATO commitment? Can we get a bit more specificity just on the numbers of where we're going to be over the next decade?
Pretty hard to predict where we're going to be in terms of GDP in 5 years, right? The economy is going to grow. We're going to work hard to grow it even.
Our economy is not growing. Our economy is the worst in the G7, and it is sinking daily under the Liberals. We have not grown in 11 years. I get so frustrated that they're allowed to come on TV and lie. There should be laws against this.
Bigger, grow that pie. And so obviously the numbers will be affected by that growth in the economy. Once again, that's why we're bearing down on the defense industrial sector to be able to give rise to more than 82,000 jobs we already have in this sector full-time and 200,000 part-time jobs. This is about creating wealth. This is about launching companies. It's about creating jobs. It's about doing so also in a very local way. Andrew, here's an example. I was at Trenton, one of our major Air Force bases, to see the retrofitting that has to take place, about $900 million, to prepare for the arrival of a new series of refueling planes that will refuel our fighter jets. That investment is going to create over 1,000 full-time jobs in the Trenton area for years. So we see this happening over and over and over again across the country.
And that's an important point. What you're hearing him say is actually true, surprisingly enough. It will create 1,000 government jobs. This is a thing you got to understand with the Liberals. They are in the fundamentals, they are a globalist, socialist government. They want the government to control everything. They do not want private sector in Canada. Carney has gone out of his way to drive all the private sector out of Canada to the United States, where he is 91% invested. So again, it profits him. But he doesn't want the private sector in Canada, no matter what they lie about. They want us to become Venezuela, Cuba, a socialist country. I don't want to live in a socialist country. I really don't. I was born in Canada. I love Canada. And I have no desire to live in their version. Disgusts me. It absolutely disgusts me. So that's what he's talking about, though, is more government jobs. Not private industry jobs, not private sector jobs, not entrepreneurs, government jobs. Government oversees everything. As there's a saying going around about Carney, it's like, you will own nothing and you will like it. And that's exactly true.
Country, and we're just beginning. We're very encouraged, and Canadians should realize this is going to create a lot of wealth and a lot of jobs.
Okay, you're talking about the economic spin-offs, and so much of this budget overall is, of course,
and by the way, when it's a public sector job, it's not creating wealth. It'll create wealth for the 1,000 people employed, but it will cost you more because those people are paid out of your tax dollars. Or in the case of Carney, since he's blowing through all our tax dollars, those people will be paid out of more rising deficits, which means higher deficits, higher inflation, lower standard of living. It's all connected, people, and this is what Carney and the Liberals stand for.
Response to economic uncertainty, the trade uncertainty, and the changing nature of our relationship with the United States. So I do want to ask, how you would assess the current state of our defense relationship with the U.S., given the fact that we do have this economic tension.
Our relationship is strong, but we have made a decision. The Prime Minister has been clear. We're going to be diversifying our relationships on the defense and military front. Just come back from Asia with the Prime Minister and Korea and the Philippines, where we signed 2 new deals, for example, 2 new agreements, which allow us again to participate on the procurement side. We have 30 companies in one country, 20 in the other, already doing business.
We didn't sign any new deals. He's lying again. We signed agreements to talk. That's all those were. We have agreed to talk in the future. There's no deal. There is nothing in writing. It's just an agreement to talk. And somehow these guys get away with lying on TV to people saying, we made deals. No, you haven't made deals. Carney's made 1 deal, Indonesia. And it costs us more money to send to Indonesia than we will ever get back in trade. And that was his only deal. What a great deal maker he is.
Look, we're managing our relationship very well with the United States. We're obviously working to get an economic deal.
There is no relationship. Ford and Carney poisoned the well, and the United States have cut us off. Now, on the defense side, the United States is never going to allow us to be invaded because it's in their own best interest not to. But don't mistake them serving their own best interests as them serving our interests. They're not the same thing. And this is what this guy's trying to spin you on. Trump has been very clear. Carney and Ford and now Ebby, they've poisoned that well. He doesn't even talk to us now. There's no negotiations going on. There's nothing. All he did was raise the tariffs 10% more, and that's on them. But they'll sit here and tell you that we have a great relationship. As long as the Liberals are in office, we don't have a great relationship. We really don't. We need a great relationship with the United States because of our proximity to each other, but we don't have it. And they did that. They did that. Not anyone else in Canada. Them, the Liberals and the NDP and the Greens. That's who killed our relationship with the United States. And they did it intentionally.
But on the security, on the intelligence, and on the defense front, Andrew, we're very tight. We're very strong.
Okay, you mentioned your trip to Asia. You and the Prime Minister toured the Hanwha shipyard in South Korea as a potential supplier of new submarines. There's also a German firm in the running. So what is your time?
Yeah, because we can't make that stuff in Canada. No, we have to send all our money overseas. Like, they keep talking about investing in Canada, but they never invest in Canada.
Frame for that major decision on procurement?
Well, the first thing to know is that we've created a whole new procurement agency.
Great. Another agency. Just what we need.
We've professionalized it. We have a new CEO coming in from Toronto to help run it. The job will be to actually launch the procurement. We've gone from 5 to 2 potential suppliers. That in itself has accelerated the process by about 2 years. We're moving quickly. We're moving with great discipline. We're moving objectively. We're going to be obviously negotiating as hard as we can to get as many industrial benefits, create as many jobs, looking at the long-term relationship with whatever company we choose, 30, 40 years. That means sustainment. In other words, it means servicing those submarines in Canada. That also has a knock-on effect.
But we're not building them here. Nope. It's like the ferries in BC. We have companies that were bidding, Canadian companies were bidding to build those ferries, and Carney and Ebby, they got the Chinese to do it. These guys do not invest in Canada. They do not give a shit about Canada. The sooner that gets through people's heads, the better.
Creates jobs, parts, a whole ecosystem. All of this is underway, and we'll take the time we need to get it right.
Okay, finally, I do want to ask you about another big procurement. That is the F-35 and the government's internal review. Now, initially, we were told to expect something on this by the end of summer. You told MPs recently that the review is ongoing. So when will Canadians know whether or not you're sticking with the plan to buy all F-35s?
What I can tell you is that the review is ongoing, and it's being taken very seriously. Things are being examined very, very carefully, very closely, and that's basically what we're letting happen. This is the important part of this process before we decide to make a final decision, and so we're going to take the time we need.
All right, Defense Minister David McGuinty, thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you, Andrew.
So there you have it. The lying scumsucker does what he does best, and he lies to you. Also, notice he left out the part that's public knowledge now. Their whole plan for new troops is not actually getting new troops and training new troops. It's getting civil service workers, 1 week training on firearms to be our reserves. I cannot express how deeply that is such a moronic and dangerous plan. And I'm seeing online some of the people are suggesting that what he's doing is he's trying to get his people in positions of authority to come and stomp down on Canadians that disagree with him. And while I'm not a conspiracy theorist by heart, I don't think that's an outrageous take either. Because why would you use civil servants that don't want to work? They don't want to do their jobs already, and you're going to give them guns. And they're just going to be mindless, yes, okay, boss. Okay, who do you want me to shoot today? It's asinine. But, so you just heard the liar David McGuinty spew his nonsense. So, on Remembrance Day, it was announced that veterans are getting their funding cut by the same liberals that are talking about investing in the military. Well, part of investing in the military is investing in the past. The people, the heroes that served this country so faithfully, did so much honor to this country. And once again, the liberals are cutting their funding. Oh, they're increasing the funding for the progressive alphabet soup stuff that Carney loves so much, but they're cutting off all funding for like Remembrance Day and veterans. And, so here, I'm going to show you the news article of the whatever her position is, liberals being questioned by the media. Alrighty, here we go. Source is CTV News, November 11th, 2025. Liberal minister tries to justify cutting funding to veteran affairs.
We always protect the solemnity of this day, but I know a lot of veterans are wondering, this year, this Remembrance Day is coming a week after the federal budget, and I know your government has cut funding to veterans by more than $4 billion. And so in terms of the real-world impact for those veterans, what does it mean?
Well, first, I'd like to clarify.
You can tell by the look on her face, she's not happy about that question. I'm going to back up a bit. She is not, look at that. She is not happy he's asking this question. And I got to say, I find it absolutely repugnant every time I see a Liberal or an NDP or a Green wearing a poppy. It's shameful. They don't respect the military. They don't honor the military. They just cut $4 billion from veteran affairs, but they have the nerve to show up in public wearing a poppy? Like, you can go bleep yourself, lady.
Well, first, I'd like to clarify that it's not actually a cut. What we are doing is making an adjustment to the reimbursement for one type of treatment to bring it in line with market rates. And in fact, we're actually investing in our veterans with over $184 million to equip us to be able to deliver services and benefits to the veterans that they're eligible for in a more timely and responsive manner to.
Yeah, because cutting $4 billion is going to increase service, and it's really going to help those veterans. Yeah, you know, they're already living on the street, but hey, let's cut it by $4 billion, and that's going to help them. That's exactly what she just said. And you can tell by the look on her face, she doesn't believe the crap she's spewing.
So we're actually investing in veterans and making sure they have access to what they need.
So to clarify then, service standards will not change and benefits will not change?
Correct. Veterans are not losing access to benefits. What we are doing is making an adjustment to a reimbursement for one of the benefits that is available to them to bring it in line with the market rates of that particular product.
And that is pure word salad. She just spewed out a bunch of stuff without actually saying anything. She didn't answer his question. She just spewed out crap.
Making sure that veterans have access to the benefits to which they're eligible is our key focus, and we're investing in doing it in a more timely manner.
So there you go, folks. Your Liberal government. They're investing in the veterans, but not really. They're cutting $4 billion so that they can send it overseas to Mark Carney's companies. But hey, that's an investment. So yeah, that's your Liberal government in action. You know, we support the veterans, but we're going to gut their money, and we're going to call it an investment because we're such kind-hearted people. You know, it's ridiculous. During the federal election, I started this YouTube channel, and I really went in depth studying Mark Carney, something I've never done before on any political figure, and I did not like what I found. He is, I keep saying it, he is evil. He is the most evil politician we have ever seen in Canada. But the way I look at it is I'm looking forward to out for the children of Canada. Because if this budget goes through, those kids are screwed. Every Canadian child born this day enters Canada $33,000 in debt, thanks to Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney. That's not a way to progress, people. You know, and now they're passing clone meat without actually telling us it's clone meat. You go into the Costco or the butcher shop, they could sell you cloned meat as beef, and you won't know until you taste it that that's what they're doing, because that's what Carney is putting through. The Liberals are putting through. They want you eating expired meat and groceries. They want you eating cloned. They want you eating bugs. I'm not joking. Trudeau tried to pass through a bill that would legalize eating bugs. This is a Liberal agenda. Like, have you people ever watched Solvent Green, the movie, or Hunger Games? That's the society they are trying to build for Canada. And you have to be a complete idiot to not see that. So, yeah, that's what's going on. And it's horrifying. And that's my video for today. If you like this video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. Takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. I encourage everybody to leave a comment. Not only does it get us interacting, but it really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.